Hello and welcome to the Championship predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage. With me, as always, is Mr. Daniel Cody. Today, we're doing the normal. We are going to predict, obviously, the bottom three and obviously your playoffs and your top two in the Championship. But also, got a little couple of plugs. We do have a fantasy EFL league. Please check down in the link down below of what league it's called. It's simple. It's Honest Football Podcast. And you get pick 7 players, and you get to compete against me, Charlie, and Cody, the Honest Football Podcast Fantasy League for the EFL. And don't forget, we are doing live streams of the Championship this season. We're starting off with the first Friday night game of the new Championship season. It's Blackburn versus Derby. You can watch it on YouTube. However, today we're going to do the predictions of the Championship. They are weekly predictions of the Championship throughout the season here on the Honest Football Podcast channel. And obviously, please do let us know down in the comment section as well who you think is going to go down, who's going to be in the playoffs, who's going to be your max for the Championship season. These are predictions. They're light-hearted. Please be nice in the comments. It's nothing personal for any side in the Championship. Championship is one of the best leagues in the world. We love it so much. Our own team went back into it. From the Premier League, we hate the Premier League and the VAR. Let's start off with the bottom three. 24th place, Daniel Cody. Who have you gone for and why?
We've talked about this off camera before. I've got 2 relegation teams fairly sorted, and the last one is a bit of a tough one for me. I really didn't want to go for this team, and I actually think they've got a chance because tactically they are very well set up, but it's a tough ask. I've got to go for Oxford United. Look, they came up via the playoffs. They were really good tactically in all 3 playoff games. The way they dealt with Peterborough, but then in a final against Bolton, they played them off the park. They were magnificent. And they've kept proving us wrong. I predicted them to go out at the semi-finals and the final of the playoffs, so it's probably a good omen that I predicted them to go down. Their intelligence may suit the Championship better, but they've lost players as well. Josh Murphy moved pretty quickly after to a promoted rival as well in Portsmouth. And while they have added players who have got potential, Louis Sibley being one of them, and a bit of Championship experience in Matt Ingram, who we had on loan at Luton a couple of years ago, Plachetta and Vaux, who's got one of the best long throws in the Championship. I just feel it's going to be an uphill battle. And while I kind of wanted them to stay up, I'm looking at the table. It's such a strong Championship at that bottom end this year. And I'm looking and thinking, who else can I go for? And on that basis, I've put Oxford bottom, but very reluctantly.
Yeah, same. Oxford's for 24th. Obviously, tactically got it spot on. Des Buckingham, obviously an Oxford United fan. Liam Manning went to Bristol City, and Des Buckingham kept it going. And obviously, I think surprised a lot of people in not only reaching the place but actually getting promoted. I think obviously in the playoff final, I think everyone was anticipating Bolton to do it. Fair play to them. It's a very, as you said, it's a very tough ask. I want them to do well, but I just don't see it this season, which is a shame. It's a shame. Right, 23rd place.
Well, you just mentioned their name, and I think a lot of people will go for them this year just on a managerial appointment. I don't think that's going to be that influential because if it goes really wrong, they'll change pretty quickly. But I'm going to go for Plymouth Argyle. Now, I'll be honest with you. I thought it would be another uphill battle, regardless of who was in charge. At the start of the summer, they were looking at like Rossini and that, who allegedly turned down the job. But in Wayne Rooney, they've got a person who, I mean, it must be astonishing that he's in the Championship and Birmingham are in League One based on what happened last season. But let's be fair, Plymouth have made some poor decisions after Schumacher went to Stoke. They didn't get the next appointment right with Ian Foster. We kind of expressed our concern about that. It was proven right. And in the end, they just about limped to survival. Wayne Rooney was a part of the reason they were able to do that, but now he becomes their 5th successive Scouse appointment as manager, and obviously knows the director of football well anyway, who helped them to survive at the end of last year. The big thing that's got to come back, though, is they were pretty free scoring under Schumacher, particularly at home the start of last season. It really dried up towards the end of the year. They tried to become more solid at the back and ended up being neither, basically. They brought in a few young additions, but again, at the moment, it just looks an uphill battle based a little bit on Rooney's record, but mainly the squad, again, against the rest of those sides in the middle of the table and just below. I don't see where or who they finish above on paper. So I really hope they stay up. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Plymouth, but I've got a feeling that unfortunately they're going to go down. So I've put them in 23rd.
2 for 2. Plymouth Argyle for 23rd place. I'm a massive fan of Wayne Rooney, the player. I thought he done well at Derby. given the circumstances.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he went to LA. No, he went to DC United, which I didn't think was the right move either for him. And obviously, a former player, I can understand that you get more of your coaching in. But I think the Birmingham move has hindered his managerial career so far. You could say the same for like Frank Lampard. Obviously, with young English managers, the moves have not worked out for him. From a Wayne Rooney perspective, he has a bit more free reign now because he has signings that he can make signings. He didn't have a chance to make signings at Birmingham.
That's fair.
But the lingering on of how badly he done at Birmingham could potentially hinder Plymouth, which is a shame because Wayne Rooney obviously when he's been a pundit on Match of the Day, speaks very well.
Yep.
I thought, yeah, okay, he's got a bit of else. Obviously, he's been under David Moyes, he's been under Sir Alex Ferguson, Louis van Gaal, so he's been under brilliant managers, and it just can't seem to click. But with the Plymouth side, obviously they just about go over the line this time. I don't think it's going to be over the line this time. I think the majority of people would go for the bottom two that we just said for the bottom two, which is a shame. I see Plymouth, good club. They've done well to get back up to the Championship. Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be Plymouth Argyle. Right, the final relegation spot, 22nd place.
I found this one so tough. Probably of the 4 leagues, maybe the toughest call was 22nd of this league because I think from maybe 17th or 18th down, there's anyone in trouble. Look, I'll just run you through my thinking. I had worries about Sunderland because I talked about it in the manager special. I worry about where the goals come from them. Millwall finished last season brilliantly, but they basically gambled getting goals on Macaulay Langstaff. Preston, they're one of the favourites to go down this year. They did well in terms of results last season, but they're not a great side to watch. We've said enough about that in the weekly predictions, but I do worry for them a little bit, as do the bookies, and they're not often wrong. And I worry for Portsmouth as well, because there's this sort of assumption that they're going to be mid-table and fine. And I know that, yes, there was that big expectation of Ipswich the year before and they were brilliant, but Portsmouth have got a rotten start to the season. They play the 6 promotion favourites in their first 7 games. Colby Bishop, their top scorer from last year, unfortunately, has just found out he's going to miss the start of the season. He's had to have a small minor heart operation, so we wish our best to him. But
yeah, well soon.
It's just a really tough start for them. So I hope they don't panic and make the mistake. But I'm going to go for them not to. Just about survive at the expense, and I hate doing this because I like the manager as well, but in 22nd, I've gone for Blackburn Rovers. Because we've mentioned it with a few clubs, particularly in the League Two and the National League predictions. We talked about those clubs that are just getting closer. And look, they had a brilliant season under Yondell Thomason a couple of years ago. They were doing really well under Mowbray prior to that. But it's just gone wrong since. You can't keep losing your best players and not replacing them. They've lost so many high quality players. Obviously, last season we saw Adam Wharton go in the middle of the year and they declined after that as well. John Eustace actually did really well to come in and just about keep them up in the end, but they only just survived on the final day, and that was with the Championship's top goal scorer, who I appreciate is there at the moment. I'll be shocked, and I'm banking on him not being there in September because someone's going to offer silly money for Sammy Schmodix at some point. At the time of recording, he is still there, but Sam Gallagher has just left literally minutes before we started this. So I don't see where the goal threat is. I don't think they're a good enough side. They're not investing enough. They're not improving enough. There's been a lot about the ownership. I really like John Eustace, and he got Birmingham out of this situation the year before when we all thought they were going to go down. But on paper, I just about go for them. I think it could be any of the 4 or 5, but I'm going to go for Blackburn, maybe with John Eustace walking at some point or getting a better job. I don't know.
John Eustace will go this season. A bad run of form, and I think John Eustace will get this out. Look, I think there's always a high turnover of managers in the Championship, and we have a massive playlist of managerial changes every season. So I do have Blackburn in the bottom 3 as well. So
I
3
didn't
for
expect
3.
that.
I do have Blackburn. Obviously, my other concerned teams there, Stoke.
I've fallen in the trap with Stoke again. I think they'll have a slightly better year, but I said that last year, so just play what I said last time.
I said Stoke, Portsmouth down there. I have Derby down there, Millwall, but Blackburn, just as I've said this, as you said it, I've said it on previous videos. If you get clawed into it over a year or two, you're gonna get found out. And I feel Blackburn have not, as you said, they've not gained, they've lost. And if someone like also Toes Dolan's been linked with a few clubs, obviously early in the summer, if he gets moved away before the end of the transfer window, Blackburn are doomed. Right, let's get to the playoffs. Obviously, it's going to be a lot tighter than we all predict. Let's start off with sixth place.
Now, I'm going to be honest here. I didn't find this playoff one of the more difficult ones. I think beyond eighth, I don't think there's anyone who's got a chance. I think it's a very big mid-table in the championship this year. I mentioned that to you before. So the two that I've got just missing out, a side that were in there last year in Norwich City, because I was a bit surprised they changed their manager. They're going to be changing their playing style. I just think it will take a while to adapt, but I'll have them to finish eighth. I had Coventry in seventh, who I still think would have been in there again last year if it wasn't for that FA Cup run. And God, how unlucky were they not to get to the final. That stupid VAR decision, but enough about that. Very happy not to have VAR in the Championship this year as a Luton fan again. But Mark Robins always has his teams up there, despite the fact they've lost players. But weird stuff going on with their backroom team just put me off at the start of this summer, changing some of the closest allies he's had over the years. So as a result, I've done what I've done in most of the other leagues, I'm afraid. I've played your approach to predictions and gone for the safe option. And a safe option in sixth is Carlos Corberán and West Bromwich Albion, because Carlos Corberán did a very good job last year to get them in there. Was obviously linked quite heavily with the Leicester job at the start of the summer. For a few weeks, there was thoughts whether he may go or not. And he's actually been a quieter summer than they expected so far. Obviously, they had the takeover about February, March time, and people thought they were going to be really busy here. But it's been a relatively calm summer. They've added sensible players, the likes of Paddy McNair, Wildsmith's another keeper. It's good depth, it's sensible players in the squad. But they've got a good base already. I do worry a little bit about the goals. I think they need a striker still, but we've mentioned it before. There's over a month to go in the transfer window. It's been slower because of the Euros. I'd imagine they'll bring someone in. I'd imagine they'll get a goal scorer. And it's the safe option. West Brom's finish in the top six again, because Corberán is just what he does. He gets teams up there and they're disciplined. So sick for them.
Sixth place for me is Sheffield United. And I'm now not sure if I wanted to go for Sheffield United. Obviously, starting the season on -2. Obviously, a lot of changes are going to be happening at Sheffield United. Obviously, no McBurney now. A lot of the older heads have gone. Fothering, obviously, in goals gone. Obviously, it's a bit of a rebuilding job for Sheffield United season. They've made some good signings, though. They've made some good signings. But I think they'll be lucky to make it in the top six. So I think they're just about to scrape it. But I think he needs another season to rebuild if he gets the chance to rebuild Sheffield United again after this season. So I'm going to go for them to sneak in sixth, but they definitely won't win the playoffs. Right, fifth.
Well, I've kind of gone down the same train, because in fifth, I was worried about them at the start of the summer, I can't lie. But based on recent signings and the way they're building the squad, I've also gone for Sheffield United, because they've brought in a promotion specialist in Kiefer Moore. We mentioned it with Sarcevic at Bradford in League Two. It's basically an unwritten rule in recent seasons. You sign Kiefer Moore in January, you're going up. They've signed him in the summer, so I wonder if that'll make the difference. It will lead the line well for Wilder's side. It's the type of striker he likes to have. I was really surprised that Callum O'Hare went there after his contract ran out at Coventry, but that's another very clever signing. He's maybe not the most consistent, but on his day, he's a match winner at that level. We've seen it before. I still think they need to improve the defence. You mentioned a lot of those old heads went, and a couple others have moved on from the squad, so they're a little bit light there. But despite the -2, I don't think it'll make a huge difference. And as long as they don't get further sanctions, and as long as they don't get off to too slow a start, in which case I think, like you, there might be a change of manager, and we've seen that merry-go-round before. I'll have them in fifth, just because on paper they're signing really good players now.
Fifth place for me is Coventry. Never write off Coventry. Never. I have a lot of respect for them. I've said this many times after the playoffs final, which they probably don't want to remind themselves of, but I have a ton of respect for them. Against odds, Coventry do well. Like, no one expected Coventry to be in the semi-final of the FA Cup. Oh, and within seconds of winning the FA Cup. Not winning the FA Cup, getting to the FA Cup final, should I say. Obviously got to the playoff final season before. And they're just growing and growing and growing every season. And I do think they'll challenge again. And they're very tough side. Mark Robins gets his team working really hard. And Yes, there's Callum O'Hare, but they've still got enough players, and it's Deji right on that in the team.
They lost Gil Keres and Hamer the year before. Everyone thought they'd
Yeah,
struggle, and they
yeah,
were still nearly
exactly.
there and in a playoff semi and a FA Cup semi-final.
Yeah, exactly. Right, fourth place.
I'm going to stick my neck on the line here, Craig. I think maybe in a different order, but I think our top four will be the same. I think most people's top four will be the same. So unless you've got a surprising fourth place, I think we're going to be the same from this point. I have gone for Middlesbrough with Michael Carrick because, look, they were in the playoffs the year before. He did a brilliant job. Last season, they had so many injuries. They obviously had to make decisions around January because they themselves got to a semi-final. If you remember, they won the first leg against Chelsea and then, unfortunately, with a bit of a depleted squad, got battered at Stamford Bridge. But last season, the thing they struggled with is that consistent goal threat. They'd lost Archer, Akpom and Ryan Giles from the year before, and that was creating and scoring a lot of goals for them. But they did improve towards the end of the year. They've added quality in midfield already this summer. And I just want them to get in there for a simple reason, which is I've mentioned earlier in the summer about Norwich and Hull and their decision to sack managers that had, in my opinion, achieved or overachieved last season. And they stuck with Michael Carrick and gave him a new deal, did something sensible. And I think they're going to have a strong season and be in the top six. I'd like them to sign another goal scorer to make that a bit more certain, but there's a reason everyone's got them up there. I think they're going to be a real threat this year. Maybe not quite with the top three, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them in there quite comfortably.
And now I regret my decision on Middlesbrough not making the top six.
Oh,
Oh, well. My fourth place team is West Brom. I'm a big fan of Carlos Corberán's magic. He just gets every team working hard and working well, and good on the ball and pass, with a little bit of aggression there as well, especially for Jason Malumbi if you want to start fights on the pitch. But yeah, I think they're going to be a tough side to beat this season. Got the off the field problems out of the way. Now they can focus on obviously on the field. I think they could be really tough. West Brom. I think West Brom could be. They're not pushing for top two. There'll be certainly a handful in the playoffs. Right, third place.
well, look, our top three is going to be the same. It's now what order, isn't it? Let's be honest with this. So
Yes.
I have gone. I don't know if I want to say it's heart overhead, but I've gone for the second favourites to finish third. I've gone for Burnley in third place. And the reason I've done that, well, there's a couple of reasons for it. The summer window has been slowed down in terms of their transfer work because of the longest, most drawn out manager saga I think we've seen in many a year in the Championship, where eventually I think the ninth man who was favourite for the job got it in Scott Parker in the end. I don't think anyone at the club or outside of it had probably expected or prepared for Vincent Kompany to be poached by one of Europe's biggest club after a pretty dismal relegation in truth. But Scott Parker, you've got to be fair, while he's not come across as the most likeable or the most presentable to a boardroom, he's got promotions on his CV from this level. He's done it twice. Will he do it a third time? The goalkeeping situation's a little bit unclear at the current time. They've lost a few keepers and not really got themselves up to scratch yet. There's going to be a bit more done with the squad, I'm pretty sure. And Scott Parker in those other jobs has relied on a big centre forward target man. They had it with Kiefer Moore at Bournemouth, had it with Mitrovic at Fulham. Will he have that here? I guess we'll wait and see. But for me, they have to be in the top six. It's just whether it's going to be top two. I could easily see this top three or four being in any order, but I've gone for Burnley in third because my heart has ruled my head.
My heart has ruled my head as well because I've gone for Burnley in third as well. I'm not sure on the appointment of Scott Parker. Obviously, they hired the assistant manager before the first team manager got appointed, which is baffling. But if you keep, obviously, I think James Trafford will be in goal.
Well, it's just whether he gets a move.
I'm not a fan of him. I'm not a fan of him, but I think he'll be in goal if they keep Lyle Foster fit, and obviously for his current mental state, but obviously hope he's well. If they can keep him playing all season, they've got a good goal scoring in him. Watched him against Luton last season. I was really impressed by him, and they've made some okay signings, but obviously losing Company will be a blow.
It'll be a change in style to an extent.
Yes. But I just think it won't be enough for the top two that obviously we've definitely gone for. Yeah, I think Burnley will finish third. I think they'll just miss out on the automatics. But do they win the playoffs, Daniel Cody? You've gone for Burnley v West Brom.
I've gone for Burnley to beat West Brom, and I've gone for that purely on strength of squad. We know Corberan's side will make it difficult, but we saw again against Southampton last year for West Brom. If you haven't got the quality of squad, you can't quite do it. So I've gone for Burnley to beat West Brom and make the final.
And Middlesbrough for Sheffield United.
I've no idea. I have absolutely no idea. So basically, on the basis that I have no idea who's going to get from Middlesbrough Sheffield
you've
United,
made your decision already who's won the playoffs.
I've made my decision of who's won the playoffs, even though I'm not sure they will, on the basis that I'm more confident they'll get to the final and have no idea from the other tie. If I had to stick my neck on the line, I'd say Sheffield United. I've got to go for Burnley just on the basis that I think it's much more likely they'll be in the final than Borough or Sheffield United. But if Borough got to the final, I wouldn't be shocked if they beat them.
Okay, so I have Burnley v Sheffield United, which Burnley will win, and West Brom v Coventry. Oh, God. I'm going to go Coventry to sneak past West Brom. I don't know. I just think Coventry got a little bit more better experience than West Brom in recent times. And I'm with you again. I'm sorry, we're not copying each other here. We're both in totally different houses.
We don't discuss these before. I'm actually genuinely surprised. This is the closest we've ever been.
No, and Charlie will be absolutely disgusted by our predictions here. I've also gone for Burnley to win the playoffs. Right, let's get to the top two. I believe we have the same top two, but we go for heart over head, or we're just being biased?
Look, if I'm being honest, and I'm looking at my notes now, I've got Luton second, but I am very tempted to change it. I'm not going to. I'm going to stick with Luton second. Look, I'm trying not to be biased here. It's a really unique scenario to be one of the favourites for Luton. Even in the year we came up and the year we were in the playoffs, we weren't the favourites. Probably the first time since we're in League Two that we were the favourites for promotion. It's going to be difficult to see how we deal with that, but Rob Edwards has talked about it a lot. And obviously, I maintain that if in February last year we hadn't had that ridiculous injury crisis, we may well have survived. But again, that comes from within. You've got to deal with that situation better, and that's improvements that can be made on the fitness, sports science side and whatever. The positive so far, and the reason I've put them second is because I do think we'll lose a couple more players. I know we've lost Ross Barkley. That was always going to happen. He was brilliant last year. Gabe Osho, maybe a slight surprise based on where he went, but is another loss from the defence. The question is probably the same for Luton and Leeds. I think I'll put it like this. I think the team who wins the title of the two is the one that loses less players. You've got Somerville and Nonto at Leeds. You've got Adebayo, Doughty, Mengi possibly at the back for us. Which ones are going to lose more players? It's as simple as that. I'm going to say Luton possibly. I think Leeds will only lose one. Luton might lose a couple. But it's the first season I feel quite relaxed. I feel quite confident, and I worry if that's a dangerous thing. But look, we had a real go in the Premier League last year. We became a lot of people's second teams. The change and evolution of style was remarkable, going to essentially a gun-ho system against top teams in Europe. And we gave them a go. Ultimately, we've got to improve defensively, but the two big strikers will cause a threat for anyone if they're still there. And if not, there's still goals elsewhere. So I fancy Luton to go up. I'm going to go for second, just ahead of Burnley and just behind the same team that will probably have top.
Yeah, totally agree. Same way. Yeah, I've gone for Luton.
Haven't we made this boring? We should have discussed it.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that I couldn't have put Leeds in 24th. No. In all seriousness, I think Luton for second place. I'll happily take first. I don't want another playoff run again.
I can't handle that.
I can't handle another playoff Wembley playoff penalty shootout again, unless you win. But
I still couldn't handle it.
No. But yes, with Luton, obviously we gave it a good go. I feel like we were unlucky, obviously with the injuries and some decisions. That's far for you. But as you said earlier, obviously the injuries absolutely killed us. Obviously the Bournemouth game, away from home, obviously the second Bournemouth game, should I say, killed us when we were 3-0 up. But I think looking at the signs Luton made last season, they were kind of based on a championship side anyway, which is not a problem. That's not being negative. That's being a bit proactive. And it's the main thing, keeping players fit at the end of the day. But I think Luton will be very strong this season, and I'm going to go for second place. Right, and obviously I think our winners are going to be Leeds.
Yeah, just to maintain a bit of impartiality here, I do think Leeds will nick it. Although officially in a few months they might be my most local EFL side, so I'm being fair there as well. Worries, of course, they've lost Archie Gray, they've lost Glenn Kamara this summer already. A lot of quality and control in midfield. The big question, I mentioned it a minute ago with Luton, will Somerville and Nonto be there still at the end of the summer? Can they keep one or both? Will they have good replacements if not? And that's the question. It's sort of what hindered Leeds last season. That first 2 months or 6 weeks or so, they lost a lot of ground on the top sides because there were so many players either refusing to play or not reintegrated or not fully fit, having not featured much in pre-season because of the transfer sagas. And in the end, that was costly because they were only one game away from getting there. So,
Well, they had that game against QPR last season and completely fell apart.
well, that was my other thing is then at the end of the season, when it gets to crunch time, have you got that experience or the quality in the squad to deal with it? That QPR game is arguably one of the most surprising I've watched in years in terms of Leeds was so bad in that game. QPR ran all over them, considering they didn't score goals much last year, QPR. It was very surprising, but they have signed a few solid players this year and it keeps the depth in the squad. And I just think maybe it's to deal with situations like that. Look, on paper at the moment, Leeds have the strongest squad in the division, but if they lose Somerville and Nonto and can't find their targeted replacements, and say Luton and Burnley keep hold of theirs, it could be a very different scenario in a month. And with the Euros and being a month away from the end of the window, there's every chance we'll look ridiculously stupid by the end of August, which is great.
And we
Wouldn't be the
always do.
first time.
We always do, but we do it for you. No, yeah, Leeds for me. Leeds for me. They obviously they can't do well in playoffs. So what's the next best option is we'll win it. They did that in 2019-20 season. I can see it doing it again. I don't think they'll run away with it like they did obviously last time they won the league, but I do think it'll be a lot tighter.
Let's be honest. If they get 90 points again, they'll probably go up.
Well, this is the thing. Like Ipswich, what 96 points? They finished second in
season.
Yeah, and obviously I'm happy for Ipswich. Obviously, 2 promotions in a row. No one expected Ipswich to be even up there, and obviously teams like Leicester and Southampton and these obviously that came down the season before to the Championship should really be up there. And one had to miss out at the end of the day when that was Leeds, but I expect them to be strong. Fans obviously on their side, and the road's going to be a fortress as usual. But I do think Leeds will win it. Right, let's have a quick recap what we predicted for the Championship for the 24-25 season. Down the bottom, we've all gone the same way. We've both gone the same way of Oxford 24th, Plymouth 23rd, and Blackburn in 22nd. It does get a little bit different, people. For the playoffs, 6th place, Daniel Cody's gone for West Brom. I've gone for Sheffield United. 5th place, Cody's gone for Sheffield United. I've gone for Coventry. 4th place, Daniel Cody's gone for Middlesbrough, and I've gone for West Brom. And we've both gone for 3rd place in Burnley, and then to win the playoffs. 2nd place, Luton, and 1st place is Leeds. And those are predictions for the Championship for the 24-25 this season. There will be weekly Championship predictions on this channel and live Championship games on this channel as well. Obviously, the first one will be Blackburn versus Derby. And don't forget, you can join us on the Fantasy EFL. Please check out the link down below. And please do get involved into our league. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can also follow us on the socials at Honest Football Podcast. And we'll see you next time.